So the last time we were here at Richard's place, we did a walkthrough of his '69 Daytona. Interesting car, right? We got into all of the little details, what makes a Daytona. We actually got into its pants, what makes a Daytona a Daytona. And did I ever tell you, I did a drag test on a Hemi Daytona back in the first issue of Mopar Action magazine.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, put a link to the video of this here, Kat. Okay. So he's got some collection, and one by one we're going to go work our way through. We're going to focus on the Aero cars right now. We're not even going to look at the 67, 427. Don't look at the vet.
You gotta look. You gotta look.
No, don't look at the vet. So also in the Daytona video, some of you guys are like, what about the Talladega in the driveway? Well, see, you got to be patient. We get to everything. Here's the Talladega that was in the driveway. So this is a unique car. I mean, a really unique car, and it's something that I'm not nearly as well versed in as the Daytona. So I'm going to leave it to Richard to give us a tour, front to back, of what makes these things unique. And we'll start at the front bumper, which is itself a unique piece, and we'll go all the way to the back bumper. Okay. Yeah, ready for this?
Yeah. Let me start by saying I do the Talladega registry for the Talladega, the spoiler twos, and the spoilers. It's simply TalladegaSpoilerRegistry.com, and you can learn a lot about these cars. Plus, all the known cars that are still in existence are in the registry by number.
Now, how many were built and how many still exist?
They built 750. We've documented around 150 or so. It tends to change, and we've got some that shows that they've been scrapped, and then it gives all the rest of them by condition and who owns them and all that sort of thing. So it's a really good information.
So how many are unaccounted for?
Probably, I can't tell you because it changes every few months, and I only do the update once a year. I'd say we know about 150 of them, so that leaves 600 gone.
Okay.
And of this 150, maybe 10% of those are documented as being scrapped or so.
When you say gone, though, I bet you there's still a bunch of these things sitting in Grandpa's barn.
Yeah, because every once in a while, one will show up. One showed up in Sweden, and they show up in Australia and New Zealand. They're not just in the States. But
a lot of oddball cars show up in Sweden, like one of the four-door Hemi cars, the '67 Belvedere, showed up in Sweden.
Wow.
But anyway, so they built 750 of them.
Yeah.
And this was like a one-option car.
There were no options. If you bought a Talladega, the only choice you had was whether it was going to be white, maroon, or blue.
Okay.
That was it.
That's it.
This car happened to be the first production car off the assembly line. It is Wimbledon white. They all came with white walls and hubcaps with styling trim rings.
So this is actually number one. They went from prototype to this.
They had prototype, pilot cars, production cars.
And this is a pilot car or
This is a production car.
Okay.
Pilot cars, there was a couple of them that maybe got sold, but some of them got crash tested and other ways got destroyed.
Okay.
But this is the first real production car.
Okay. All right. So now in the scheme of the Aero Wars, right? Where does this car fit in? Which was the first manufacturer to?
Well, it depends on whether you're talking to a Mopar guy or a Ford guy.
If you read my shirt. These are for sale at UncleTony'sGarage.com, by the way.
We love the Aero cars, so we got no prejudice towards Mopars or Fords or Mercs.
Oh, I love them all. I'm a Mopar guy.
The story goes, and the history goes, that Ford came out with the Torino in this body style Torino in '68, and it was a fastback design, and that fastback design was way faster on the super speedways.
Okay.
So Dodge says, our Hemi just isn't making it. We got to step it up. So we need to get smoother
So they
aero.
copied the fastback roof by taking the tunnel out and mounting the 68
So they did the 500.
Okay.
They did the Dodge Charger 500, which is basically a Daytona without the wing and the front nose. They had a special flat nose grill.
There was a 68 Coronet grill.
Coronet, yeah.
That they just mounted flush to mimic the Torinos.
Correct. So Dodge made the mistake of bragging about it before they did it. And Ford got wind of it and secretly went back and says, okay, we're going to make what turns out to be the Talladega. And working with Holman Moody, they built an aerodynamic front end on it, did a couple other things we'll get to. and they both showed up at Talladega
Okay.
with
So
their
they showed
cars.
up at the same time,
Yeah. There was
same
one
race as the 500 Charger.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, and they were running 427s in these cars at that time. So the Dodge 500 showed up with their Hemi. The Talladega showed up with the 427.
The tunnel port.
But it was more aerodynamic than the 500, so it won the Daytona race.
Okay.
That blew the Mopar folks up. So that's when all the stops were pulled to build the Daytona.
Okay.
The interesting fact is a Talladega never won a race at Talladega, and the Daytona never won a race at Daytona.
All right, so let's start at the front bumper, which is its own unique animal, and we'll work our way back. Actually, I want to get under the hood too, because there's a lot of stuff.
Okay, we'll come back to the hood. The front fenders, we got it before we get to anything else. The factory Torino fenders were cut. This part was cut off.
Okay.
And then this three-piece new fender was created. The old fender would have stopped about here. So this is an extension. This panel does not exist on a Torino.
Right.
That's Talladega only. The grille is a stock Ford Torino Cobra grille. But it has the rubber seal gasket all around it to close the gap between the hood and the fenders to make it more aerodynamic.
That's another thing you can't get at Rock Auto either.
Yeah, you can't get that at Rock Auto. I believe there's somebody reproduced them now, but for a long time they're work. The turn signals were taken off of the fender. Torino will have and Fairlane will have the turn signal there. These are, you can't barely see them back there, are off a Ford van behind the grill.
Okay, I see it.
We can turn those on later. Now the bumper is really tricky, and when we get to the back of the car, you'll have to take a good look at the back bumper, because this bumper is fabricated from a rear bumper.
Right. So this is it began life as the same as the back bumper.
Yeah, it began life as a back bumper. It was cut here, here, and here.
Okay.
It was narrowed. You can see how well and how tight
it tucks in perfect right here.
And then the back bumper straight. It had to be V to fit the front, so they cut it here, put a V in it, cut it here and here,
and brought it and sucked it in. Okay.
So, and then they say that this flat panel tend to act like a spoiler as well.
I could see it because it's almost vertical.
Yeah.
It's almost vertical.
The hood, there's no way you can tell. There's no way you can get to it. So it has an inside hood release. I don't know, do you want to open it now?
Yeah, let's open it now.
It has an inside hood release, which is from I believe a 67 Lincoln Continental.
Now what's interesting, before when we opened the hood on the car, and I wanted to point this out, there's no, when you go to open a hood on this car, you go to here, let's put it back.
Shut it,
Put it right there. You can't, there's no place, like you go to grab the car and grab the hood and look for the secondary latch, but you can't. It's solid right here, so you can actually go from the sides.
Then you reach down, get the safety latch, and open it up. The latch is special to a Talladega. It's made from two factory Torino latches. This hook needs to be extended, and this pull is extended and bent. This cable then goes through the hood back into the interior where the
right down there,
where the down here where the latch mechanism is. It's powered by a 428 CJ, 335 horses as rated by the factory.
The chrome valve covers and the chrome air cleaner top are factory?
Yes. Okay. The chrome valve covers are on early production cars. Later in February, the cars started being built early February, and later February, the factory ran out of the chrome covers and switched over on the rest of the cars to aluminum valve covers.
So now up here we got a lot of action.
All of this sheet metal reinforcement and aero pans inside are to help support the extended nose and clean up the air on it. Has an oil cooler, pan down on the bottom, these structural elements, and then there's pans here and here to fill the some of the voids.
Now, is this the same as the Super Cobra Jet oil cooler?
I believe so, yes. Then there's a power steering cooler that's added down here in front of the power steering pump.
And these bumpers are...
They're unique to the Talladega, basically for the reason you saw when you opened the hood. It's down so low, when you pull the cable, the springs push the hood up so you can get your fingers under the edge of the door, the fender, or into the hood.
Well, I think the original has a spring over here.
Yeah.
That would
Push it up. Yep.
Or say the original, I mean just the stock.
Regular Torino.
So I think that's it for the front of it, right? Did we leave anything out?
No, you want to look at the interior as we go around?
Yeah. What's that? Oh, the seam? You're going? Oh, okay. Yeah, Kathy's shooting the seam at the front bumper.
Yeah. You can see where it's cut and reformed.
See, that's why I pay her the big bucks, because she remembers these things. That we forget.
Yeah, she's a valuable part of this team.
So before we even get, let's start at the downside. Okay, this is great. This is great.
If you imagine a rocker panel, how they're cupped when they go down like this, Ford was a little bit sneaky. They took, and just on the Talladega, it's a Talladega only in Ford, they took that rocker panel and then pinched it at the bottom and then rebent the lip that comes down. This lip's about twice as long as it is on a regular Torino. The purpose for that was that NASCAR measured the race car height from the ground to the bottom of the rocker panel.
But not to the seam.
Not to the seam. So if you bend the rocker panel up an inch, the car on the racetrack could sit an inch lower. What happens? Lower center of gravity, less air resistance, more speed.
Now you can see, if you look at the front fender right here, you can see where this is its normal height, where it would start to come down, and then they actually bent the fender up to meet the raised rocker. And you can see this whole section right here is where the rocker on a standard Torino would come down. This is the pinch weld area. So they actually just bent this thing up and left the whole pinch weld seam exposed.
You can tell the Talladega when you walk up to the door. It's got a big T on it. Nowhere on the car does it say Talladega other than on the door panels, and over there you can see. That's the only place on the whole car that will actually say Talladega. If you look at the plate on the inside of the door, it's also unique to other cars, where it will say Special Performance Vehicle. So it's a very special door tag that you'll see only on the Ford. You'll see it on the Talladega. The interior is a real taxi cab arrangement. They did the cheapest cloth they could find. No bucket seats. Column shift transmission.
All automatics for column shift.
All automatics, no consoles, no bucket seats. There were no options on this car. You bought it the way it was.
But you could get a 4-speed though, right?
No.
Oh no, really?
No, there was no option. All the Talladegas were exactly alike except for the color.
Interesting, okay. Solid sounding door. You know, people were yelling at me because they slammed your door.
They're cars.
Look, he's slamming his own right. They're cars, exactly. Exactly.
They're cars.
And you got the big T.
Yeah, big T on the fake gas cap. This isn't unique to Talladegas, but the gas cap is actually behind the bumper, not on the tail.
Like a B-body Mopar.
Yeah, everybody tries to. No, it doesn't come off.
There's something about that that reminds me of the Maverick for some reason. Okay, I know.
The Talladega automatic is the only car that came automatic that came with staggered shocks, and to hide those, and we'll show you underneath where the shocks are and where they're staggered, but they include this steel box in the trunk an access plate to mount the shock on the driver's side, which is actually mounted.
So this right here is the access plate for the top of the shock, and this is like from the Super Cobra Jet drag pack.
Right, correct.
Okay. But they adapted it here is the only automatic transmission application for that staggered rear shock.
And instead of the spare tire being mounted over the axle, it's mounted on the passenger side, inside of the trunk with the jack. Now you probably want to take a look at this bumper and say, how in the world can that be the front bumper? It's straight, wider. See how it sticks out from the fender instead of being tucked underneath, right up tight?
Now, who did the modification on the bumpers? Is that Holman and Moody?
Holman Moody built the fenders for the first 100 cars. Actually, they weren't acceptable, so they changed suppliers at that point. I think they may have done the bumpers, but my brain's going blank on that right now.
It's a beautiful car, man.
Thank you. It's a dream to drive. They really drive, and the faster you drive, the better they drive.
Sure, I can imagine.
That aero really comes into play, and you feel it settle in.
All right, so that's the Talladega. What's next?
Well,
You would give him a teaser for the next.
we've got a '69 Mercury Cyclone spoiler, 428 Ram Air car, and we have
Which is like the most beautiful thing you'll ever see.
it's a Cale Yarborough car, and then we're going to compare that.
Yeah, no,
Not too
no
much.
more of that. This is a tease.
We're going to compare it to its sister, which is also a sister to the Talladega. It's a '69 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 2. It's the Dan Gurney version. They made two versions of each car. One.
And that's going to be the rarest.
This is one of one.
Oh, there you go.
The Spoiler 2s. We'll save it.
No, stop. Don't talk anymore. And don't look at the vet or anything else. Brother man, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely. Glad to do it. This is fun.
another 2 weeks?
Absolutely.
Come back in about 2 weeks.
Sure.
We'll do the Mercuries and
Yeah.
we'll do something with the vet.
Okay. Great.
I love this stuff. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. See you. Oh, I'm supposed to say
You're
that.
supposed to say
Yeah.
that, right.
See you tomorrow.